Megapixels aren't everything in a camera. It doesn't follow that just because you have more megapixels, you get a better camera. But with that said, anyway, here is the list of the best 64 megapixel and above camera phones you can get right now. The Realme X2 Pro is an absolutely unbelievable deal as a smartphone in general. It uses a Samsung GW1 image sensor at 64 megapixels under the main lens. It's capable of taking some really awesome looking images, and because you have that 64 megapixel mode, you don't really have to worry about editing your photos after you take them. You can zoom in, crop them how you like, and you'll still retain a lot of detail. This phone also features an ultra-wide and a 2x zoom camera, so all in all you're getting a really useful camera. You get a couple of really similar phones in the OnePlus 7T and also the Oppo Reno Ace, which all in all are also great phones, but they don't match up to the 64 megapixels you get in the X2 Pro. The Realme X50 Pro is brand new from Realme and replaces the X2 Pro, a flagship phone from Realme with the best specs they can give us, a flagship processor and that same GW1 image sensor. All in all, it's giving you a very similar experience to the X2 Pro, but it's more expensive because it is the brand new phone with the brand new processor. Vivo doesn't really get too much hype, especially when they make expensive flagship phones, but this phone all around is a really good package. A lot of people thought this would be a good alternative to the Mate 30 Pro, now that you can't really buy that without Google. And backing up that 64 megapixel main sensor is an ultra-wide and a zoom camera, so a lot of functionality out of the camera on this phone. Vivo images tend to be incredibly saturated and they turn the colors up way more than actually what it appears in real life. Some people like that and some people do prefer a slightly more subdued, natural looking image. One of the most affordable ways to buy a high megapixel camera phone is the Redmi K30. This comes in a 4G and a 5G version. The chipsets are slightly different. The 5G version has the brand new Snapdragon 735G. That is the replacement of the 730G, which you find in the 4G model. This was the first smartphone to use the brand new Sony 64 megapixel image sensor, the IMX686. It gets a bump in resolution over the previous version, and it's just a bigger sensor as well, and bigger when it comes to camera sensors is usually better. Redmi are about to release in the coming months the Redmi K30 Pro, which should also be using this same 64 megapixel image sensor, but the big difference is that the Pro version will be using the Snapdragon 865, so you should get a lot more image processing power out of that chipset. The Oppo Reno 3 Pro, already released in China for a long time, is actually getting some changes before it gets released internationally. The two main changes are the addition of a 64 megapixel image sensor and also going from a single hole punch cutout for the selfie camera to a dual hole punch cutout. You also get a telephoto at 2x zoom and an ultra wide. Very useful cameras. Oppo have also added a 2 megapixel black and white image sensor. In my opinion, not very useful whatsoever. People very rarely take these sorts of shots. You can get black and white images through processing anyway. All in all, it looks like a really good phone though, and it's the first smartphone in the world to come with a 44 megapixel selfie camera. The BBK brands, Oppo, OnePlus and Realme, are absolutely killing it in the mid-range right now. You get so much choice, good designs and a lot of good phones. Not to be left out though is Samsung, who actually make the image sensor that goes in the majority of these 64 megapixel camera phones. The Galaxy A71 is a fantastic phone and you get this awesome screen. Something about Samsung screens that just look so good. They obviously keep the very best AMOLED screens for themselves and you get this really modern design with the centered hole punch cutout. The design is really similar to the expensive flagship phones like the S20 series. You do get an ultra wide on this camera, which I think is the most useful secondary lens. You also get a macro sensor and a depth sensor. Those two lenses for me don't provide much use, but at least they are there. There's no telephoto on this camera though. Again, with so much resolution from that main sensor, the 2x zoom isn't really needed. I would say there are certainly better value options, especially from the Chinese brands, who give you a little more in the specs and a lower price too. Samsung went all out on this one and offered us a specs monster. 108 megapixels, 8K video recording, and pretty much anything you could ever want in the Android world when it comes to a camera phone. Early reviews have actually said there are some problems with this camera phone, for example with focusing. I also have used this phone quickly and found that same focusing issue, but Samsung are rolling out camera updates for this and you would expect the performance to get much better in time as updates come. But in terms of a hardware standpoint, this thing probably won't get beaten. If you do really want a high megapixel camera phone and you don't want to spend 1300 US dollars, the Mi Note 10 is a great and affordable phone. It was the first camera phone actually to use a 108 megapixel image sensor. It's not exactly the same as the one on the S20 Ultra, but Samsung do make it. So many people would be happy with this phone. For the price, it gives you such a useful camera. An ultra wide, a 2x, a 3 or 4x zoom, and that 108 megapixel image sensor. If you can spring a bit more money, the Mi 10 and Mi 10 Pro use that same image sensor. The Mi 10 Pro is the best that Xiaomi can offer, an ultra wide, again, a 2x, and that extra zoom, around about 3 or 4x, and Xiaomi say it can go to 10 times zoom, which is a hybrid zoom without much loss of quality. Both the Mi 10 and Mi 10 Pro put that image sensor to good use, and as an all-around package, I think Xiaomi did a great job with those two phones. There are also some upcoming phones with high megapixel image sensors like the P40 series, rumored to be around about 50 megapixels. And there will be some more down the road too. It looks like in the Android world at least, the megapixel race is back on and it's just going higher and higher. Subscribe for all the latest tech news and videos. That's it for now, but I'll see you in the next one.